Hey everyone, Amar here. In this video, I'd like to talk to you about a 4-step process for doing ego work. So what ego work is, it's about really working out a lot of the unconscious habits and patterns that you've picked up, been programmed with, right? When we begin to do ego work, we start to see the patterns we've got, patterns that are not really effective. They're not a real expression of love. They're not a real expression of who we are. And we know we need to release them, right? And I think we have to do ego work to become more aware of them and start to change them, right? So this is really kind of deep work, I would say. It's healing work as well. I recently made a video on nervous system healing. I would define healing, excuse me, mostly on 3 levels. The body, the nervous system, emotions, and like the mental, psychological. So this kind of falls on into the mental and psychological level. You could also say it's a kind of shadow work, right? You're bringing more consciousness to unconscious parts of yourself, right? So it's hardcore work. It's very freeing though, right? You will literally change on an identity level if you do this work correctly. If you follow some of these guidelines I'm going to share with you. And before we get into it, I just want to share with you an analogy that I recently thought up yesterday in a meditation actually. And it's this idea that the ego is like a big messy knot, right? And over the years, as you've been programmed and the longer you've lived, obviously this knot just gets messier and tighter until it's just an absolute mess, right? And that's most people's personalities and identities, just a mess. And so ego work is almost like undoing the knot. Undoing the knot is freedom, right? This is spiritual work. The more we undo the knot, the more we find ourselves. And it's not even that we have to completely undo the whole knot. We just have to loosen it up enough, open it up enough that we begin to understand that you were never the knot in the first place. You'd kind of confused what you were or who you were. So it's almost like as you begin to open the knot up, you start to see through the knot, right? So this ego work is about working with this big messy knot, which is your ego, which will ultimately lead you to a greater sense of freedom. So a lot of these 4 steps I'm going to share, they're about awareness. They're about bringing more consciousness and awareness to your ego, more specifically to certain patterns, tendencies you've got, fears, right? The more awareness you bring to these parts, the more you can let them go, right? I know a lot of people, a lot of new age stuff might say just do affirmations and visualizations. I don't really believe that will always undo some long held patterns and tendencies, right? It's not always as powerful. It's not as powerful as awareness, right? Just pure awareness of seeing, okay, I've got this pattern, I've got this tendency, then just getting deeper into why you do it is what's going to free you quicker, really get you that deep level, identity level change, right? So let's get into these 4 steps. First step is observation, right? I know it sounds obvious. Some of you might already think, well, I already know what's wrong with me. I can already see all these patterns and things I do that I don't like. But I would suggest you get even more kind of like interested. You'll be doing, we all do, not just you, me as well. We all have these unconscious tendencies and patterns and ways of doing things, right? And on such a microscopic level that we just don't see, right? They're so unconscious that they bypass us over and over again. We just don't see them. We see the obvious stuff. We don't see the more micro level stuff. So I'm asking you to get interested not just in the macro stuff, but in the micro level stuff as well, right? The more you begin to see, the more you'll be able to change, right? I'm going to use an example just to take you through these 4 steps. The example I'm going to use, this is one that I've kind of struggled with. I think it's probably quite common for most people, which is why I picked it. And that is the fear of other people's opinions, right? So putting it into the context for these 4 steps. First step, you become aware. So you might catch yourself in a certain social situation where you don't really speak out when you want to speak out. For whatever reason, right? You think, okay, I've caught this in myself. Sometimes I want to say something, but I won't say it. Just just an example we're going to run with. So that's the observation. You've caught something about yourself, right? Second step is we want to start to contemplate, why do you do this thing that you're doing? There's a reason why you do this thing, this tendency. Using the example I've just shared, you don't speak out for what reason, right? I know I've just labeled it as fear of other people's opinions, but I want you to get inquisitive about it, if that was what you were struggling with, right? And you've really got to contemplate this. I'm not saying the answers are going to come to you right away. You might need to contemplate this for a week, 2 weeks, maybe longer. I would suggest you journal on it, right? More and more stuff will come up. The more awareness you bring to it. Look at the question every day, right? Why do I have this tendency? Over time, you'll begin to see. Okay, again, using the example, I hold myself back from speaking when I'm around other people because I don't want to say the wrong thing, perhaps. I don't want other people to judge me. I don't want to be rejected, right? I want to be accepted. I'll give you the answer for the why now because I think it's the same for most people. The answer most of the time is based around love and acceptance or fear of rejection, right? That's really what the ego revolves around. It's always looking to get worth and value and love and approval from the outside world, right? So a lot of our unconscious tendencies and patterns revolve around getting love and acceptance, right? However, me just telling you that isn't going to help you. That's why I told you. You have to have the realization yourself, right? You have to clearly see it. Okay, this is why I do what I do because of X. It might not be anything to do with love. Most of the stuff I found about myself was, right? I'm generally assuming that most things are. But you still have to see for yourself, right? Me telling you ain't going to get you the kind of shift that you're looking for. It just won't land until you clearly see it, right? It's like consciousness is so powerful, and when it sees itself, when it has the realization, that's when the breakthrough occurs. And this is why people can tell you the greatest advice, best spiritual advice, best life advice, self-development advice, but it never actually works for you because you don't have the realization of it. That's so key, right? Realization. Third step of this process, is it working? Is this tendency you've got of, say, not speaking out in public, in social situations, does it work? Does it get you what you think? Does it get you what you were seeking? So in question 2, we identified why you were doing it. So maybe you were doing it because you wanted love and acceptance. Third question, does it work, right? If this tendency works and it gets you what you're seeking, then there's no problem, right? Keep doing it. Unfortunately, 99% of the time, you're going to find out it doesn't work. So again, I'm going to use this example, fear of other people's opinions. Does you holding back make people accept you more, right? Probably not, because you're not being real. You're not being authentic. You're not speaking your mind, right? When we're authentic, we allow other people to connect to us from authenticity as well, right? That's where real connection is formed. If we hold back, other people are going to hold back. They'll feel something's not real and honest about us, right? So in this example, no, this habit, this tendency I've got doesn't work. And it's important that we realize this. Whatever you're working on, you need to answer the question, does it work? Because you can keep doing it not knowing that it's not working. I know this sounds so obvious, but you just need to see that, is it working for you or not, right? Fourth and final step of this is, what would be a healthier way to get that need met? Okay, this is where it becomes to a behavior level change, right? You know what you've been doing. You know that it hasn't been working. What could you do instead, right? What would be a healthier behavior? Using the example I've shared, maybe you could start occasionally voicing your opinion. I'm not saying you just have to go from quiet to like loudmouth, leader of the group. No, I'm just saying, just bring into your consciousness that there's probably a healthier way of being, right? A more loving way of being, which would be, in this example, to share what you want to say, connect respectfully, right? You speaking your mind doesn't have to be kind of offensive to other people. I think that's what people in this example might sometimes think, right? I don't want to offend anyone. That's what I'm saying. Just take the baby steps, right? Just slowly start to develop new habits and behaviors and ways of being that are more in alignment with truth, with love, right? A lot of this revolves around love. I'm realizing this more and more. The whole ego thing, it's just a way to get more love. And I want you to understand this, and you will start to see it for yourself as you begin to untangle your ego, as you begin to identify these patterns and question them, right? Why do you do it? Does it work? And if it doesn't work, what might work instead? You might even have to try a few different things. Eventually, you'll find something that's more in alignment with you, right? That allows you that authentic expression of being and love. Because that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day is, how am I being more loving? How can I be more loving? There's another good question to ask. In that scenario, how can I be more loving? There, I've just added a fifth to it, a bonus one, which I didn't even think about, but that will be a great question to add to the end. In these situations where I'm faced with some difficulty, how could I be more loving in that situation, right? I can't believe I've just come up with a fifth question for this. These guidelines, and it's an awesome question. I really like that. How can you be more loving as well? Okay, and then you begin to implement the new way of being, right? And don't beat yourself up over it, right? Kind of go easy. It takes time to change on these very deep levels, and ultimately you'll change enough that you don't need to do this all the time. It might take you, I think you might need to work on this ego level stuff for a few years, perhaps, but just do it when there's something you want to work on, right? Don't get obsessed with it. But if you have a certain tendency, like the one I've shared, or anything else, just work on that for a while, right? And then maybe leave it alone for a bit and then revisit something else. I used to get very much like caught up in this stuff and thought, I'm just going to do this hardcore every day for years or for a long period of time. No, don't. Like, it's too much. Something I'm also beginning to realize is like the middle way, the Tao, the middle way. Just enough effort and just enough kind of being, right? There's a middle way. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm probably going to start talking about also. But yeah, don't go too hard. Just work on things when they arise, right? And I hope this helps. It's ultimately, like I said, about bringing more consciousness and awareness to these patterns. That's why it's important we ask these different questions, because with these different questions, we're looking at the problem from different perspectives. Okay? It's all just about bringing more awareness to it. The more awareness we bring, we let them go. Okay? So I hope this video helped you out. If it did and you enjoyed it, or if you've got anything to add, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, please go ahead and give a like, share, subscribe. It really helps me out. Check out my book if you haven't already. I'll put a link down below. But until next time, remember to keep living free and being free. Peace.